Hello, and welcome to this presentation on Renton School District's fiscal outlook and our work on the 2025-2026 school year budget. We'll begin by covering some basic information about school district budgeting. This presentation addresses mainly our general fund, which is one of 5 funds operated by the school district in accordance with state accounting regulations. The general fund budget year is September 1st through August 31st. Renton School Board must review and adopt the budget prior to the start of the new budget year. The general fund revenue is primarily the proceeds we receive from the state and federal governments, along with our local levies approved by Renton voters. Our expenditures are primarily directed to our high-quality teachers and educators, along with support staff. About 85% of our budget is connected to the salaries, benefits, and mandatory taxes of the staff we have working with our students. Monies we have in other funds, such as associate student body or capital projects, cannot be transferred to support the general fund budget. Voter-approved bonds and levies for school construction and improvement projects are preserved for those purposes. Building improvements and construction approved by voters will continue. Our budget is a plan. We began developing this budget as early as 10 months before it's approved by the board, and changes in district programs, legislative actions, and other factors can change the budget plan while we work towards the final budget. Once the school board approves the budget, the district cannot exceed the authorized appropriations without further action and approval by the board. But the dollars within the budget can respond to circumstances that occur after the budget is finalized. Nearly half of our revenue is restricted to specific activities, and we'll discuss that more in this presentation. Our budget cycle is nearly continuous, and often the district is working in multiple budget years as we plan, execute, and close out budget years. This shows some of the activity that happens across the calendar year. This year, we started our budgeting process early. The legislative session timing is outside of control, but we'll be ready to respond to any outcomes of the session during our winter and spring planning. Renton School District's budget challenge is not unique, as many districts across the state face the same challenges, which has been caused by numerous factors. We've been monitoring and planning for those factors over the past several years. While Washington State infused additional resources into schools with the McCleary lawsuit settlement beginning in the 2018-2019 school year, that funding model, along with the reduction of local levy authority and the insufficient prototypical school model, has fallen short of providing the resources our students need. Additionally, like household budgets, inflation and rising costs for food, fuel, and labor have also greatly increased for the school district. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the federal government authorized rounds of relief money to schools. These funds, called ESSER, supported districts through the pandemic and helped to delay the funding challenges. Unfortunately, during the pandemic, student enrollment decline in most urban areas of King, Snohomish, and Pierce counties caused a student enrollment drop. Student enrollment is tied to our funding, and the loss of students magnifies our budget challenges. There are a number of issues that contribute to our current budget challenge, and the prototypical school model is one significant concern. Washington State determines the number of teachers and support staff based on this prototypical school model, along with student enrollment. This includes how many teachers, teacher aides, administrators, and other support staff are needed in schools to support student learning. Two examples that we can show where the state's model is insufficient include school psychologists. These staff members are required to participate in individualized education plans for special education qualified students. They also provide support to students needing other assistance. Renton School District is funded for only 2.2 school psychologists across our entire district. Another example is safety and security. Renton School District is funded for only 2.4 security staff. In fact, the state's prototypical model would determine that just 0.57, less than one security staff member, is needed to cover all 4 of our high school campuses. Also, our region has seen increases in cost of living and wages, as well as insurance, utilities, food, and goods, just as we have all experienced at home. Lastly, the state has significantly fallen short in funding for special education, student transportation, and material and supplies budgets. This slide shows some of those shortcomings since 2020. Special education services are legally required for qualifying students, but the state has underfunded Renton School's special education program by $51.5 million over 5 years. Student transportation has been underfunded by over $20 million, and our expenses for non-employee costs have been underfunded by more than $24 million. Since 2020, state funding gaps have cost Renton School District more than $104 million. Next, we'll discuss student enrollment and how the number of students we serve has changed over time and how that change impacts funding. From 2016 through 2020, our student enrollment was relatively stable. But once the COVID-19 pandemic required us to close schools, student enrollment dropped beginning in September 2020, just 6 months into the pandemic closures. Enrollment has continued to decline ever since, and this is particularly attributable to the declining rate of births in King County, the declining number of babies being born to families, and the high cost of housing in our area, making it difficult for young families to live in King County. Our enrollment is the #1 driver of our revenue, so as student counts decline, we're provided less resources. In December of each year, we make a projection of how many students we believe will be enrolled in our schools for the coming school year. This enrollment projection is built into our budget to determine our anticipated revenue. Our state funding is based on enrollment, so if our projection is too low or too high, the state will adjust our payments accordingly. These data show how kindergarten classes have declined over the same time period. Smaller kindergarten class sizes are an indicator that there will be smaller cohorts or groups of students moving through our school system. For the current year, our kindergarten numbers are just slightly lower than last year, so we see this trend continuing. Now we'll discuss our revenue, which is the resources we receive and how they're assigned to continue to improve student learning. Our revenue is received in categories. The great majority of our funding comes from Washington State. About 7% comes from the federal government, and we receive both general and special education dollars from the state and the federal governments. Our voters approved our replacement levies in 2022, which provides about 14% of our budget for teacher support, classroom and school materials, school cleanliness, and more. Special dollars for things like special education, transitional bilingual, learning assistance programs, and others are earmarked or limited to the program they support. In total, our current general fund budget anticipates just over $301 million in resources for the current year. These graphs depict our revenue over time from the Earlier, we discussed dollars being restricted or special versus unrestricted or general. The allocation of restricted dollars has increased over time. Nearly half of Renton School District's revenue is now restricted to a specific purpose and cannot be used for other purposes. Now we'll discuss how money is invested in our education system for student success. The first 5 categories in this chart clearly shows that most of our resources are invested in our education programs and supporting our student learning. The other large component is support services, which also support students, like food and nutrition programs, student transportation, school maintenance, grounds, safety and security, central support staff, and insurance and other district-wide support. In total, the current budget outlines nearly $310 million in expenditures. And this is more than our current year's revenue. Moving forward, we will work to balance our budget and have close alignment between our available revenue and expenditures. Renton School District spends about 85% of our budget on our highly qualified teachers and educators and support staff throughout the district. Here you see how those costs have changed over time with the rapid escalation of the cost of living and associated wages. The benefits are all mandatory, and the district does not have the ability to control those costs except by reducing the number of staff. Much like we have all experienced in our homes, the cost of utilities has increased substantially in the past several years in areas like electricity, natural gas, sewer and water, telephone, and more. We anticipate spending $1 million more for electricity as compared to pre-pandemic years. Now, we've worked to control electrical costs thanks to voter-supported bonds and capital projects measures to upgrade school and classroom lighting, to install lighting controls, and much more. But this cost increase is significant even with those efforts. Our revenue and expenditure performance depicted over time shows that we have in general stayed fairly aligned. In 2018-2019, an intentional decision was made by the district to save money for expenses that we could see coming down the road. That savings and a long-term approach to budgeting, as well as pandemic relief monies and incremental budget adjustments over the years, have kept Renton School District financially healthy. Now we'll discuss what a fund balance is and why it's important to the financial health of a school district. Our fund balance is similar to a home savings account. The fund balance allows us to respond to unforeseen conditions, such as lower enrollment, or allows us to invest money in our schools when a specific non-recurring expense is approved. Fund balance also helps us to smooth out the irregular frequency of our revenue. Our state revenue comes in monthly, but at various percentages, as shown at the bottom of this slide. Note that in June, July, and August, it represents about 28.5% of our funding in the summer after students have completed the school year. The months of May and November are intentionally lower because that is when a district receives property taxes from voter-approved local levies. And lastly, some of our funding is reimbursement-based, meaning we must expend the money and then apply for reimbursement for the expenditures. Fund balance monies helps us to balance all of these needs and ensure we can meet our financial obligations. With our decline in enrollment, the end of the pandemic relief monies, the underfunding of our schools for the state prototypical model, including the large disparities in funding for transportation, special education, and other materials, our fund balance has declined over the past few years. Our school board requires a fund balance by policy and has directed staff to target a 7% ending fund balance. In planning for the current budget, the school board invested some of the fund balance into our schools to delay additional reductions, essentially using our rainy day funds by authorizing staff to plan to have an ending fund balance below the 7% target. The ending fund balance was just over 4% as we closed out the last fiscal school year. To help our school board provide direction as staff developed the budget, we provided these potential scenarios for board review. If we made no changes, our fund balance would decline to less than $1 million. You can see the various adjustments needed to provide projected fund balance scenarios. While there is no statutory minimum for fund balance, we require about 4% to meet our cash flow requirements. The state has provided indicators that they feel a 3% ending fund balance is the minimum a school district should have. At a public study session and school board meeting on January 8, 2025, staff presented this information to the school board and sought their input and guidance as we continued to develop the 2025-26 budget. The recommendation is to reduce the budget expenditures for the 25-26 school year by $15 million, or about 5% of the district budget, and to maintain about a 4% ending fund balance. Board members concurred to reduce expenditures in the current year as much as possible to help with the budget challenge. And district staff, under the direction of Superintendent Dr. Damian Padenod, are working to make $15 million in reductions in the coming months, with a plan to present a final 2025-26 school year budget to the board in June. Thank you for watching this budget overview presentation. For more information and to follow Renton School District's budget process, please visit our website at rentonschools.us.